Alright, YouTube, it's time for Occult Literature video number 28, The Life After Death and How Theosophy Unveils It by Charles Leadbeater. Uh, One of the earlier works that I created. It's not in the most perfect format, but it's still, it's fine as far as the content goes. It's also a fairly long work, specifically because of the format. Let me actually check here. 47 pages on a 6 by 9. Originally, the booklet was far smaller. It's also in smaller typeface. I can't remember exactly why I chose to do that. I do know there was a formatting issue with why I did so. But link in the description to where you can purchase my edition on Amazon. Second link to my books blog where you can find this and other materials, grimoires, philosophical materials, and so forth. Theosophy is one of the newer sort of aspects within the occult, as it doesn't go back, it's not like the Hermetics, the Renaissance era stuff. It's not like ancient, Gnostic philosophy or anything like that. It's fairly new. It's the last century and then some, essentially starting with Blavatsky and all of this Atlantean sort of material. The fact that Blavatsky was a fraud is clear. The fact that some of the scientific and philosophical principles upon which theosophy was philosophically based, the fact that all of that was wrong is also true. For instance, atomic theory as it stood at the time is not nearly the same as atomic theory now, and science, especially the physical end of science, the less biological one in many cases, as well as cell biology, really fed into theosophical ethos over time. This has been the case with multiple works. That doesn't mean, though, that the core philosophy, especially within works like this, which don't really go into that, they go into sort of this more purely spiritual side, it isn't, valid or interesting to read. I think that this is perhaps the best work of all of theosophy, other than Steiner's Occult Significance of Blood, and I believe he had become an anthroposophist at the time. Anthroposophy, not anthroposophy. Leadbeater's work here talks mainly about the afterlife, sort of reincarnation cycles, purgatory, his thoughts in general upon these topics. For instance, within theosophy, there's a fairly clear path that is delineated that purgatory is not permanent. It's not necessarily a suffering time. It's not the same for everyone. It's called devachan to them. Essentially, a person is temporarily purged of their attachments to, things that are, if they've got a sexual attachment, then of course in their sort of spirit form they can't have sex, and so the only real purgatory is their own attachment. However, if their obsession was on, I like to listen to music or be in nature or something, they can still do that to some degree in spirit form. Indeed, they can perhaps in some cases do it better. And if they had no attachment at all, then they skip by this step entirely and just go right to devachan, which is a sort of paradise in between lives. It's not entirely clear whether this takes place and it feels like it's the hundreds or thousands of years, or if it passes by in an instant. Reincarnation is nearly simultaneous to death, and it just feels like a long time. It's not exactly, as far as I've seen, I've never seen a theosophical piece of literature that describes that. It goes a little bit into guardian angels, the theosophist sort of feeling on that. These sort of late 1800s, early 1900s, sort of eugenics, interwar general era works, they have this Atlantean, a very optimistic in many ways, and very pragmatist view of the spiritual. That is, they believe that the human condition can be improved in the same way that people at the time, they were being told the biological human condition can be improved by civilizing the savages, by, answering the race question, by selectively breeding humans, by increasing our technology, by conserving aspects of nature and so forth, by eating this food, by having lots of kids or whatever. Sort of the Protestant work ethic overlapped with sort of the neo-traditionalist movements of Europe at the time, and it all sort of came together. This is really sort of the basis of the Third Reich, but at the same time, you even have modern-day conspiracy theorists talking about some of the theosophists, especially Steiner, not so much like Leadbeater or these people. Talking about Steiner saying, oh, he wanted all these like archaeological relics. He wanted to discover these ancient powers to stop Hitler and stuff. It's relatively strange. So you've got to works like this from this period within Theosophy have got to be framed in the context of what was going on politically and culturally at the time. It makes it far more interesting. It's like War's End by Wing Anderson, which is one part prophetic work and one part sort of long poem, if you will. It was written in the 1940s. It takes place when people thought the world was literally going to be shattered by the Second World War. You have to look at context when you think about spiritual works. Leadbeater's fixation on the improvement of the human condition through successive reincarnation, through the purification of a person, through what he sees as kind of a quasi-purgatory. The ability of theosophists who are properly trained to sort of linger around and help others spiritually is all very eugenic in its form. That's not to say, evil race. I don't. Eugenics and racism don't overlap in every respect. I think sometimes people forget that. But a very, very interesting work. Probably the best, again, the best work within Theosophy other than The Occult Significance of Blood by Steiner. I'm still trying to release that. I'll get around to it at some point. So again, link in the description to where you can purchase this work. Second link to my books blog. I believe I've edited 2 other theosophical works as well, but I may be wrong. It may be only one. That's about all. Peace out.